Beautiful. Hey, we are live again, and I am with Kimberly Barfuss. Kimberly Barfuss has been a blogger for 4 years. She loves to blog about anything that has to do with being a mother, birthing, finances, even for young couples. And now she is a mother of 3 cute, adorable babies. And I have a lot of opinions on that because I'm grandma. So Kimberly is my daughter. And she had a VBAC or vaginal delivery after a C-section, after 2 C-sections. And now she wants to guide moms throughout their pregnancies and coach them to have empowered birthing experiences or birth experiences even after 2 C-sections. So here is Kimberly Barfuss, and today she's going to talk about her 7-day gestational diabetes meal plan and why is this so important for any pregnant women. So welcome, Kimberly. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. So I think, so before we talk about the diabetes meal plan, I did want to talk about just 7 things you should probably know about gestational diabetes and C-sections and how it leads to more C-sections. And so the first thing is that gestational diabetes, they don't know which one affects which, but if you have gestational diabetes, you are more likely to have preeclampsia. And preeclampsia, of course, leads to more mothers needing to be induced because, that avoids all the maternal seizures and everything. And so the only way to cure preeclampsia or eclampsia is to deliver the baby. So as soon as your blood pressure, is above like 190 over 40, I forgot the numbers, but then they need to deliver the baby as soon as possible before it gets dangerous. And so then they'll want to induce the mom. And this can be a little problematic because moms with gestational diabetes or really any kind of diabetes, they have longer labors. And this is due to the uteruses or uteri not having strong or effective contractions. And so there was a study done in 2012 that showed that proved that the women with diabetes have weaker and shorter contractions and therefore longer labors. And this doesn't really follow the OB timeline, or the OBs have a certain timeline,
right?
And they don't accommodate for if you have diabetes or not. And so they even did biopsies on the uteruses and to see if there was any differences in the muscles. And they found that there was a difference between normal uteruses and the uteri from the women who had diabetes. And so just to put it into perspective, like most first-time moms, on average, they take 6 to 12 hours just to get to 4 centimeters dilated, and then 8 hours to go from 4 centimeters to 10 centimeters. And then even after that, the World Health Organization says that you should allow about 4 hours for women to get from 10 centimeters, or like 4 hours of pushing, before doing any medical intervention, which so many women I've heard were like, oh, I pushed for 2 hours and then I had a C-section, or oh, I pushed for 3 hours and then I had a C-section. And I was like, you really should be allowed to push for 4 hours. And even then, you shouldn't just have to lay there on your back for 4 hours. Like, there's a lot you can do to change the position of the baby and to make it a lot better, like during the pushing. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
So let me ask you, so if somebody's pregnant right now, what is an indicator that they probably have gestational diabetes? And why should they be concerned? So what are some signs?
So one thing is that a lot of these symptoms of gestational diabetes are just symptoms of pregnancy. So like if you have to pee all the time, that's a sign of diabetes. If you get dizzy or fatigued after eating, or if you get swollen, that's like really swollen, that's water retention, and that is a sign of diabetes. And so one thing to keep in mind is, especially, so if you eat or if you drink a soda or if you eat like pancakes or waffles with syrup on it, and then you feel like crap afterwards, and you feel really dizzy, and you feel like you're gonna pass out, or you have to go rest or something, then that's a big sign of diabetes. Um, and then if walking helps after that, so like if you have gestational diabetes, you need to like go on walks after dinner just to help process everything. But really the only way to know if you have gestational diabetes and not just, pregnancy is to get your sugars tested.
Right.
And to do the test to get your A1Cs, tested.
So how far in the because I know there's that test that happens at some point during the pregnancy, but how soon, right? How early into the pregnancy can you have or request that test to be done?
Yeah, so usually the test does happen at between 24 and 28 weeks. If you've been diagnosed with gestational diabetes or in the past, then you will probably get tested like at 20 weeks or 16 weeks. That's when I was tested after I had gestational diabetes. But yeah, you can get tested like as soon as you want. Like with the further along in your pregnancy, the worse your diabetes gets, which is why they usually wait till the 24 to 28 week mark, because in the early pregnancies you might not, or in the early stages you might not have gestational diabetes, and then you develop it over time. And this is especially why you, even if you have type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes or gestational diabetes, all of these get worse in your third trimester. And so you have to really watch your numbers. And even if you were taking insulin and you were finally had found your rhythm with the insulin, once like when you hit the third trimester, everything's going to go crazy and you're going to have to adjust your insulin levels again. And yeah, it's just your placenta really messes up your cells' resistance to insulin.
So anyone thinking or considering getting pregnant or at their early stages of being pregnant should consider their eating habits, right? So you designed a fantastic 7-day gestational diabetes meal plan. And is it only for the people that have been diagnosed, or is it for everybody? Anybody in their pregnancy can benefit from it.
Yeah, well, it was definitely designed for moms with gestational diabetes, but I actually used it in my third pregnancy to prevent gestational diabetes. And I really do think it was due to my diet that I was able to keep my sugars level and to pass that diabetes test. But so I do think it would be helpful for really all pregnant moms. But yeah, it's definitely safe for gestational diabetes moms. It was made for gestational diabetes moms. But I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist. This was just the foods and the plan that I found that because it's not one of those plans where it's the same 3 meals and then you have leftovers, every other day of the week and stuff. It's like 7 full days of unique, meal, lunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And there's like 21 different snacks that you can, choose from. And one of the weird things about the meal plan is that because you're supposed to have a snack between breakfast and lunch, between lunch and dinner, and then after dinner. And one of those snacks, but right before bed, is a half cup of ice cream. And I thought that was the weirdest thing. And I was like, I have diabetes. Why would you tell me to have ice cream? And my diabetic specialist, he said, if nothing else is working, if you're eating apples and peanut butter or, crackers and cheese, and you still wake up with your sugars not being, in a good, safe range in the morning, that means that he's like, you should just try eating half a cup of ice cream and then see how you do. And the ice cream, it just has a good balance of carbs, fats, and protein in it. And so it's really good at just keeping your sugar stable overnight. And yeah, I don't know why it works, but that's definitely how I felt the best in the morning was when I ate half a cup of ice cream. So
interesting. So it depends also on the ice cream. So get a good quality ice cream with good ingredients, right? So with the least the better, because you want that cream.
I'd always get the Tillamook Rocky Road. And so Tillamook has egg in it, so then you get more protein and more fat. And then it also has almonds in it, the Rocky Road. And then I would sprinkle it with slivered almonds on top. So then I was getting the extra, protein boost
Protein. That's
from that.
awesome. And I love that how you clarify that you're not a dietitian, you're not a nutritionist, but then it's a meal plan. So it's not a diet. It's, it's a suggested meal plan. And I don't need it, right? But I love the, is it cottage cheese pancakes? I
Yeah.
love
No, no,
those.
no, it's cream cheese pancakes.
Okay, there you go. Cream cheese pancakes. So it's
Yeah.
just amazing. They're delicious. And I prepare them for me, and they're very hearty, like they're
Yeah.
very very dense in nutrition and protein. So this is super important, and for moms that are pregnant, for moms that to prevent being diagnosed. So how did it go for you, Kimberly? How did it go after during that pregnancy? It was number 2, right? Baby number
Yeah.
2.
So
Um,
we suspect that I had undiagnosed diabetes with my first, and then because I had all the symptoms, like after I was diagnosed, I was like, oh, this is how I was with my first, except I had moved from Utah to Kansas during my pregnancy, and it was right in the time where I was supposed to be getting tested. And they'd done a blood test, but not the diabetes test. Like I'd never drunk in the drink or anything. And they were like, oh, did you get tested for diabetes? And I was like, well, they drew my blood, so I think so. And they're like, okay. And they just wrote it off. But with my second, they were like, okay, you're going to have the diabetes test, drink this drink. And then, an hour before your appointment. And I was like, whoa, what? Drink this drink? Like, I never did this with my first. And so, yeah, so that was with my second.
yeah, and everything turned out okay, right?
Yeah, well,
Except
yeah.
except for it was also a C-section
Yeah.
because of the heartbeat. That was the reason that was
Yeah,
given to
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Well, in diabetes, apparently you're more likely for your placenta to be calcified earlier. And so that's another concern, which they do say that diabetes increases the risk of stillbirth, but truly it's just unmanaged gestational diabetes increases your risk of stillbirth. But if you have it well managed and if your numbers are good, then you're having a normal pregnancy just like anyone else. Yeah, and you just have to watch out for that longer labor time, and you won't be reacting to Pitocin as well. So some OBs like to induce gestational diabetic moms like at 39 weeks or even 37 or 38 weeks. And they give them Pitocin, and their uteruses don't respond properly to Pitocin, and so it doesn't really help. And then they're just like, they just turn out the Pitocin, it's not helping, so they're like, oh, you need a C-section, and they just didn't really give the mom enough time to labor until allow the baby. So I think that's what happened with my first.
Right. So this is something that I admire so much about Kimberly. Kimberly is a researcher. Kimberly is always wanting answers, even since she was a little girl. That girl is like, okay, if I had any question, I knew she was going to Google it and do the homework for me. So before we go to the next thing, where can people find that 7-day gestational diabetes meal plan?
I probably should have made a simpler link or whatever, but it's barefootmama.com. And
yeah, it's right there, barefootmama.com. Contact her.
And then it's gestational -diabetes-C-section.
Yeah, maybe you can put the link after we're done with the streaming, put the link to it. So you're going to find it there. If you are live, feel free to ask questions. If you're a grandma, if you have a relative that's pregnant, Kimberly's a great resource. Now she's going to, let's spend a couple of minutes before we are done sharing your passion about being a birthing coach. What is that? How can you help? And how can any mom that's pregnant, mind you, she has 3 kids already, 3 kids, this Barefoot Mama, super young mama, beautiful. And she has 3 kids, and she's gone through a lot of experiences while birthing. And again, 2 were C-sections, and the 3rd baby that has 1-year-old birthday today, she's so cute. She was born vaginally after 2 C-sections. So it can happen, and Kimberly is here to reassure you, guide you, teach you, educate you, and coach you on the possibility of having a vaginal birth after C-section. So tell us a little bit more about that, Kimberly.
Yeah, so like as a birth coach, I help women establish their birth plan to get clear on what they want. Because if you don't know what you're shooting for, you're never going to hit it. And so you need to get clear on what you want. You need to build a good foundation for your birth plan. You need to find the right team members. So I like specialize in the Utah area because that's where, you know, I delivered my babies and I know where all the OBs are. But in any area, like I'm so good at Googling and at calling.
She will research it for you.
Yes, I will help you find people. And even if you live in a state that doesn't allow VBACs, like there's so many women who would drive 4 hours to get to their midwives. And so I would look like anywhere to find if there's anyone who could support you. And so, and then it's just, I don't know, I see all these women like posting questions and stuff on Facebook groups. And then you have like a whole cascade of answers. And so as a birth coach, you can just sift through all the answers and just have someone to answer your questions and know the full story, not just whatever you post, you know, online or whatever. And so I can help you be able to, you know, make a plan and be more confident in your birth. And then to also just go over things that no one would talk about or that they wouldn't even remember or think to tell someone about, especially with birth after 2 C-sections. Like it's so rare to find someone who's birthed after 2 C-section, and even doulas, it's really rare to find a doula who's done that. And so it'd just be, you know, helpful to have someone else who's had the experience that you're trying to have.
And it's amazing because there's a lot of practitioners out there. There's a lot of service providers. There's just a few that have the best interest in you without them thinking of their own agenda. So that is why it's so important for you to be knowledgeable, to educate yourself on your rights, on your voice that you need to have when you're dealing with these providers. Where nowadays we live in a life where like people are afraid of pain because there's different kinds of pains. People go, I'm going to just schedule my C-section because I want to avoid the pain of delivery. And that's kind of like a myth, right? Because I've given birth to 8 children, and I cannot imagine recovering from a C-section according to what I hear. And I admire those people that have gone through that. Kimberly, one of them. And but she's seen the difference, right, on recovering after C-section and recovering after a vaginal delivery, even after C-section. So that's amazing. And that's why it's so important for you to get that support and that help. And Kimberly, why now more than ever? Why now?
Well, now there's the coronavirus, and that just makes it so much harder for birthing women. And you can't have, you know, you're only limited to like one birthing partner, your husband. And that's why I think it'd be helpful to even have a virtual, you know, coach or someone to be there with you. And now with the coronavirus, now insurance plans are actually covering home birth and birthing centers more to help moms not be in the, you know, dangerous, crazy situation in the hospitals. And so now home birth and birthing centers are a bigger, better option for women. And it's just the coronavirus has really thrown things crazy.
And this is the thing. We have like 2 more minutes, but I want to emphasize the fact that this is not primitive. This is not, I mean, doulas, birthing centers have gone a long way. And again, I've had 8 kids, never thought of this like this. When I witnessed my daughter's or Kimberly's 3rd birth in this in this birthing center, I was like so surprised and impressed of how wonderful, beautiful, sanitary, clean, homey feeling and attention and preparation of these locations and places. And midwives are ready with more of the scientific things or medical things, right? Do you want to share what are they ready with for you, even in the birthing centers?
Yeah, in birthing centers, so I was able to have IV antibiotics at the birthing center.
Right.
They have infant resuscitation kits, like anything you can find at the hospital for infant resuscitation. They have it. They have oxygen tanks in case the mom needs oxygen or the baby needs oxygen. And they're able to, like, I was transferred to the hospital, and it was such a peaceful, calm, you know, beautiful transfer. And they stayed with me the whole time at the hospital. which you can't do now probably with coronavirus.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have pitocin shot. After you deliver to help your uterus contract down, you get a pitocin shot, and then they just have also like essential oils and other stuff like ribosas and birthing balls, and yeah.
So it's the best of both worlds. They combine the ancient, which I wouldn't call primitive, ancient, ways of delivering a baby. Women have had babies since the beginning of the world. Let me tell you those news. Okay. So it's okay. You're in great hands when you surround yourself and you curate, like you pick the best practitioners out there. And Kimberly is here to help you no matter where you are in the nation. She'll find that team for you. So if you want more information, you know where to find Kimberly at barefootmama.com. Contact her also through Facebook, and she will help you get access to her 7-day gestational diabetes meal plan. And you can also ask her about her services, and you're going to be in great hands. Thank you so much for being here, Kimberly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I hope that little cutie, your VBAC baby, has a wonderful birthday today. We're gonna get on a video call later on to celebrate virtual party. But this is awesome. Thanks for being here, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.